Hey guys, this is apple season. You went apple picking and you end up with a lot of apple. I got just the perfect apple pie recipe for you.
First, let's start by making our own pie crust and don't even think about using pre-made one. Put 2 cups and a half of all-purpose flour, put 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Mix the dry stuff together and then incorporate 2 very cold unsalted butters thick and grate it into the mix. All of the butter should be coated with the flour and it should look like a wet sand. Now it's time for the wet stuff, and what I like to do instead of just adding very cold icy water, I like to put rum in it, so this will add depth of flavor and your pie crust is gonna be delicious. The amount of liquid you put in your flour may vary every time you make it because of the temperature, the humidity or other factors, but is roughly around 5 ounces. Don't put all the liquid at once in your flour, you need to do it gradually. This is not gonna be a wet dough, it's gonna be more on the dry side, and what I'm doing right now is I'm cutting the dough in 4 and then laminate it and press on it. Repeat that step 4 to 5 times, and what we are doing here is creating layers of butter, so when the crust will bake it will be very puffy. When you are working that dough, it's very important to keep it cold so the butter doesn't melt. When you are working that dough, you need to work quickly, and when you're done, form a disc, put it in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. Now it's time to choose our apple for our apple pie. We need apple that stay crisp and crunchy even after baking. Good apple varieties for your apple pie would be Honeycrisp, Granny Smith, Gala, Pink Lady, but here I'm using Corton because this apple doesn't brown as quickly as other varieties. For this recipe, you will need about 9 regular size apple. First, you need to remove the skin, cut the apple in half, and with the melon batter, remove the core for minimal waste. And then with a sharp knife or a mandolin, cut your apple in equal slices. To add layer of flavor in your apple, add the zest of 1 lemon and then squeeze the juice of that lemon into the apple so it doesn't brown. Freshly grate 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and add 2 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. And like always, my bowl of choosing is way too small to toss this all together, so transfer this into a larger container. Now it's time to work on a sauce that will take your apple pie to the next level. Melt 1 cup of unsalted butter. When your butter is melted, incorporate gradually 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Whisk it, then add 1/4 cup of water and then 1 cup of white sugar. Whisk on medium-low heat until all the sugar are dissolved and you get this nice texture. Remove from the heat and let it cool down. Now it's time to work on our crust, and remember this is full of butter, it needs to stay cold. On a lightly floured surface, roll your dough until it became 2 inches more wide than your bowl. Lightly flour the dough and then roll it to your rolling pin. It's gonna be easier to put the dough into your bowl. Here you want to tuck the dough in and not stretch it. By now the sauce has cooled down, so incorporate it to your apple and violently shake it. Now that everything is mixed together, it's time to pour a healthy amount of it in your pie crust. This looks like a lot of apple, but in the baking process this will reduce by about 50%. Brush the side of the crust, and now it's time to work on the top part of the pie. So I just get this guy out of the fridge, and now it's time to roll it like we did on the bottom. Once you're done rolling that dough, cut it in equal strips of 1 inch wide. Now let's start lettucing those stripes. What you want to do here is to have those stripes running under and over each other. Fold the bottom dough onto the top and then use your finger to flute it all around to make it extra fancy. Brush every square inch of that dough with an egg wash mixture and then sprinkle the top with sugar to have a nice brown shiny look to your pie. And into a 350 preheated oven it goes for 45 minutes. Into a large bowl, add 1/2 cup of all-purpose gluten-free flour, 1/2 cup of cornstarch, 1/2 cup of oat flour, 1/2 cup of white ground chia, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 cup of vegetable shortening. Mix all this together until you have the texture of wet sand. And for the wet stuff, you need ice, 1 whole egg, 2 tablespoons of rum, and 4 tablespoons of icy water. Mix all that together, and like the last time, we'll incorporate the wet stuff into the dry stuff gradually. The amount of liquid you put in your dough goes with your feeling. This gluten-free dough will need to be more hydrated than the regular one, otherwise it will break and fall apart. And like we did before, we need to create layers, so cut the dough in quarter and then fold it over itself 4 to 5 times. When you are done, put gluten-free flour on your dough and then in plastic wrap, and in the fridge it goes. Gluten-free flour dough can be very tricky to work with because they have zero elasticity. Here the trick is to use 2 parchment paper and roll the dough between the sheets. Roll the dough 1 to 2 inches wider than the bowl, and then roll the dough into your rolling pin so it will be easier to put the dough into your bowl. Now for the sauce, I'm using a 1/4 cup of clarified butter that you can replace for 1/4 cup of margarine. Add 1 tablespoon of gluten-free flour, whisk, add 1/2 cup of water, whisk again, and 1 cup of sugar. And for a creamy texture, add 2 tablespoons of a soy-based cream. Now add this decadent mixture into your apple and then shake it like if you missed gym this week. Pour all those apples into your crust, and now it's time to work on the top part of our pie. Like we did the first time, roll it in between parchment paper until you have 1 inch larger than your pie, and then cut it in 1 inch strip. Do the latticing again with the stripes, cut the excess on the edge, brush everything with an egg wash, and sprinkle with sugar on top.
Alright guys, here we have 2 awesome apple pie. Here a delicious apple pie, and here an incredible gluten-free and dairy-free apple pie. So let's look at this. Let's see how this look. Is it beautiful? Woo-hoo-hoo. Is it nice?
Yes.
Yes. Is it delicious, Sissy?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Alright guys, we did 2 delicious apple pie, and we didn't forget about our dairy-free and gluten-free friend who can enjoy this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If so, leave a like, subscribe, and...
See you soon.
It's good.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Can I have one?
No, it's mine. It's mine.